Hello and welcome to BYJU'S Exam Prep. Welcome to another episode in our strategy series where we shall be talking about how to prepare for the subject of geography for UPSC Mains examination. Now, the subject of geography is categorized under GS paper 1, and every year we get questions worth around 100 to 105 marks from the subject of geography. So that automatically means that this is one of the very vital subjects for your GS paper. Now, out of the total marking of 250 in GS paper 1, think about it, 105 marks is asked directly from the subject of geography. So in this video, we shall be talking about what is the syllabus which is required to be covered for the subject of geography, what should be the approach that should be taken. We shall be taking a look at the subject materials which are required for the coverage of the syllabus, and also few of the previous year questions to help us analyze the pattern that UPSC is expecting the candidates to be aware of. But before anything else, let us take a look at the importance of studying this subject. By studying the subject of geography, it is not as if you are targeting only this direct 100 to 105 marks. The importance of the subject transcends GS paper 1. If you take a look at it, then even in General Studies paper 3, you get a direct help if you are well versed with the subject. How is it so? Because when we talk about GS paper 3, we do cover the subjects or the topics around agriculture as well as the topics around environment ecology and disaster management. Now, an idea about the subject of geography enables you to address the questions of agriculture very directly. And also, you will be aware of the climatic conditions, the climate types, as well as the variation due to climate change which the various species are facing and the globe as a whole is facing. So that will help you master the portion of environment and ecology as well. Also, when we talk about the aspect of disaster management, many of us, we spend a long amount of time studying this subject separately. But if you analyze it, what is disaster management? It is management of a disaster which has happened. What are the disasters that we talk about? We talk about disasters such as floods. We talk about disasters such as earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, tsunamis, cyclones, so on. Now, all these disasters you study in greater detail in the subject of geography. So automatically, if you are well versed with that subject, you'll be proficient in managing those aspects as well. Then comes the portion in the essay paper. Every year or every other year, you find a question such as management of international borders of India is a complicated issue. Geopolitics of Indian Ocean and so on. Now, all these are the topics which have a direct geographical connotation. Unless and until a candidate is not aware about the realities of the various different parts of the international border, how do you expect the candidate to be aware about how the management is a difficult task? Unless and until you are not aware about the geopolitical realities of Indian Ocean, about the locational aspect of India, about the strategic location of the island groups such as Lakshadweep and Andaman Nicobar Islands, you will never be able to do complete justice to the essay topics thereby. So that is why this is one of those subjects which transcends the requirements of immediately GS paper 1. So that is why this subject needs to be studied in greater detail. But then, what is the syllabus of it? So as we have already seen in the aspect of the prelims paper, the syllabus is quite concisely mentioned. The syllabus simply says Indian and world geography, and thereby the physical, social and economic geography of India and the world. So as a candidate, you need to be aware of the physical geography, the climatic part of it, the geomorphological part of it, the oceanological part of it, as well as the human and economic geography, not only from an Indian perspective, but from a global perspective as well. But then, let us analyze the detailed syllabus breakup. Because please understand, unlike the preparation for prelims examination, the preparation for mains examination has to be slightly different. Because the questions that are asked oftentimes involves and does require the candidate to be able to interconnect and interrelate multiple different topics together. The candidate needs to have an approach to get into the W3H aspect. What is the W3H aspect? So, this involves the questions of when, where, why, and how. So, for any different concept that you come across, for example, take the case of a tropical cyclone. Now, if a tropical cyclone has occurred or does occur in any portion of the globe, why does it happen? Which are the areas where we observe or where we experience these cyclones? How do they develop? When do they develop? During which parts of the year and during which seasons of the year do we experience these tropical cyclones? These are the nuances that one needs to cater to. So that is why the syllabus needs to be understood in slightly greater detail so that you can manage the portion of interconnection of the various portions of the syllabus. Here, you won't find necessarily a question individually or dealing with the portion of geomorphology in isolation or climatology in isolation. You do end up finding questions which do require you to write both the aspects of it. So, when we take a look at the detailed syllabus breakup, here the salient features of world's physical geography is very important, and here please understand the importance of the term world's physical geography. Because when you study about any particular terminology or any particular unit in physical geography, be it geomorphology for example, in geomorphology what do you study or what is it that you are needed to cover? Basically the interior of the earth, the formation, the structure of the earth, tectonic movements which happen across the various different land surfaces, physical phenomena such as earthquakes, volcanoes, the aspect of mountain building. There are different types of mountains. We have fold mountains which get created, and also you do have block mountains in existence. For example, Vosges in Europe as well as Vindhyas in the region of central part of India. So there needs to be a kind of a distinction in the process of formation, and that needs to be understood clearly. Because when we talk about the formation of a fold mountain, the types of geophysical activities and characteristics that you observe in the case of a fold mountain will be very distinctly different from the portion of a block mountain. So that is what is very important. Then after that, volcanoes, earthquakes, weathering, erosion, rocks, landforms, mass movements, all of that need to be understood from the conceptual point of view and then put forward across the globe. You will find oftentimes questions coming from this portion that elaborate about the formation of various different fold mountains across the globe and discuss the occurrence of earthquakes across the globe. So here always the Commission wants you to take a larger picture, a larger viewpoint of what is happening across the globe. So that is why always you have to approach it from the global perspective. Then in the portion of climatology, one is expected to be well versed with the various different aspects of atmosphere. Similar is the case with oceanography. Not only the various aspects of atmosphere, the constitution of it, the various different properties such as wind movement, cyclone formation, hailstorms, cloud bursts, things that we encounter on a day-to-day basis. All of that becomes particularly important. Now here if you take a look at it, temperature distribution, phenomena such as jet streams, cyclones, front formation, rainfall that is received, climatic regions of the world, as well as if you take the case of oceanography, ocean relief, temperature distribution, current, salinity, coral bleaching, so on. Now, try to find a kind of a pattern here, and there definitely does exist a kind of a pattern. be it the portion of geomorphology or climatology or oceanography. In all of these, the pattern is quite simple. First of all, understand the basics of formation. In the case of geomorphology, for example, unless and until you are aware about the basics of the interior and the structure of the planet, you will never be able to understand the property of geomagnetism. Why is it that planet Earth does exhibit a magnetic property? Similarly, in the case of atmosphere, unless and until you are aware about the features of troposphere and stratosphere, you will never be able to understand why is it that air circulation happens only within the region of troposphere. Why is it that the jet streams, they move in the region around tropopause? Similarly, in the case of oceanography, unless and until we are aware about the basic bottom relief features of the ocean, we will never be able to understand why the temperature changes across the depth in a certain manner and why salinity does experience a change thereby. Now, while studying as well, there has to be a kind of a flow which has to be maintained. Unless and until one is well versed with geomorphology, the study of climatology and oceanography will be half-baked. And thereby, the concepts which should develop naturally, that will never happen. So that is why there should be a kind of an organic implementation of the various concepts as well. Then, important geophysical phenomena. For example, tsunamis. For example, phenomena such as cyclones, such as cloudbursts, such as hailstorms. Now, these are important geophysical phenomena which do impact the global climate, and more particularly so in certain important areas or in certain regions inhabited by humankind. They do have the capacity to cause tremendous amount of damage as well. So that needs to be looked into. And one needs to dig a bit deeper. Again, follow the W3H aspect. Why does it happen? When does it happen? Where does it happen? And how does it happen? Then after that, distribution of key natural resources across the world, including South Asia and Indian subcontinent, forces responsible for, or rather the factors and features responsible for the location of various industries, where is it that the minerals are located, all that needs to be looked into carefully. Now here, even when we talk about the portion of Indian geography, you will find that the questions have a kind of an analytical basis. You don't find a direct type of question that what is an earthquake. You will never come across a direct question that describe about the structure of the atmosphere. No. Such kinds of questions are asked and found in class 10th level examination. This is the civil services examination that you are appearing for. Not only are you expected to be aware of these basics, but you are expected to be aware of the applications of various different phenomena experienced not only across the globe, but from an Indian perspective as well. If a certain event does cause a particular amount of damage on the ground, then what can be the measures to control that damage? Why is it that the Himalayan rivers, they do flood year after year? So such kinds of deeper details are required. So then, what should be the approach to study? And what should be the approach to write answers in this? Because answer writing, after all, is the most important aspect in your journey for civil services and basically for the mains exam as well. So basically, the approach to study should be topic-wise. Now here, ideally, many of the candidates, they come across with a problem that we have understood a concept, but we are unable to write answers about it. So what to do? In that case, first of all, from various different content materials that you have, try to gain as much amount of information as you can about that topic. Once you have gained enough amount of information, then topic-wise notes should be made, ideally. Now, when I say notes, what do I mean by that? By that I mean, suppose take up any particular theory, for example. Let's say we pick up a theory of continental drift. Continental drift. Now, after going through the various different portions of the content, after I have analyzed that what is this continental drift, after that, I should have the ability to write either 300 words or 30 words if required for that continental drift. So, the note should be made not after looking at the book and simply copying the portion of the book, but try to make notes in your own words. What you have understood as the evidences for the continental drift. What is it that you have understood as the reasons cited by Alfred Wagner to prove his theory of continental drift? What were the drawbacks or lacunae? And what were the positives of this particular theory? How is it that this theory helped to project eventually the plate tectonic theory? All that aspect needs to be looked at very, very minutely and very carefully. So that is where the note making should always be in own words. And one particular factor which is quintessential in the portion of geography answer writing is the usage of diagrams and flowchart. Now, when we talk about diagrams, oftentimes the misconception is that when we are drawing diagrams in the answer copy, we should use multiple different colored pens and beautiful diagram needs to be drawn. But that is not the luxury that you have. Please understand, in the mains examination, ideally, you will have close to around 7 to 8 minutes for writing one answer. That does not give you enough scope to draw beautifully laid out diagrams with various different coloration pattern as well. So always try to attract the attention of the examiner, of the evaluator, by drawing as simple a diagram as you can. Label out those diagrams so that it is clear what is it that you want to draw. Diagram should be a kind of a rough representation, always. And the effort should be that in every question or every answer that you write, there should be at least one diagram. Now, there are many different questions and many different portions such as cyclones, tsunamis, etc., where a particular geographical process is followed. A particular geophysical characteristic is followed. So in all those cases, a kind of a flow chart is very important and goes a long way. So when you write your answer in the body part of it, always try to represent it with the aspect of flow chart. Now please understand, the study of it, the approach of this portion is not going to be drastically different than what you have prepared for the prelims examination. The aspect is going to be very much similar. But then the only difference will be created by your ability to craft the answer in your own words. That is what will create a good answer. And when you write the answer, the conclusion part of it should always be futuristic in scenario. For example, if let's say you are writing about the interior of the earth, always try to create a kind of a futuristic conclusion that what is it that you need to do further. We need to study about the interior furthermore. There needs to be a greater research which needs to be carried out to understand the various different events which happen on the surface. If let's say you are faced with questions such as floods, then you should have a kind of a way forward in those kinds of answers. So here the answers do require the incorporation of way forward. Okay? Wherever and in whichever portion you come across the aspect of, let's say, a problem statement given to you, that India is a country which faces a lot of water scarcity. In that situation, always the solution has to be incorporated with the help of a way forward. So there again comes a portion which is very important for the approach, and that is the role of current affairs. Invariably, in the mains examination, majority of the question that you find, they have a current affairs connotation. For example, if there have been a lot of volcanic eruptions, UPSC will necessarily ask you a question that why is it that so many volcanic eruptions have happened? In those cases, you will be required to provide the examples of all the various eruptions which have happened recently, and also the global distribution. So there, a broader perspective, a broader picture needs to be painted by you as a candidate. Now, what is the book list that you need to refer? Again, very similar to the book list that you are referring for the prelims examination, that is the NCRTs of class 11th and 12th. That is what is needed. A detailed study of it, not a kind of a glancing look, but a detailed in-depth study is very much required. And when you go for that detailed study, obviously, slowly and steadily, your information will automatically be augmented, because once you gain an overall perspective of the Indian geography, of the global portion of the geography or the world geography, then automatically, slowly and steadily, you will be well versed with what to write. And again, if you face problems in the portion of 11th and 12th, do not hesitate but to pick up the portions of NCRTs of class 6th to 10th. NCRTs of 6th to 10th. Now, these should be the basic books. Now, yes, there are various different materials available in the market. For example, G.C. Leong, as well as, for example, Majid Hussain for Indian geography. But then I would like to reiterate here and clarify that for the portion of general studies, you will rarely come across a question in the mains examination which you find to be mentioned in greater detail in a book of G.C. Leong or Majid Hussain, but which is not present in the portion of current affairs and NCRTs. So if the job can be done by studying the NCRTs and current affairs, why not follow that? And why to go for tremendous and numerous other types of study materials? So always restrict yourself with the minimum amount of materials that you can study, so that you can have an ease of revision and you can have a better position when it comes to answer writing and consolidating your preparation as well. Now here, the role of Atlas is again going to be quite similar than what you have in the prelims paper. But the difference here is going to be the aspect of your ability to interpret the various different geophysical characteristics across the globe. For example, distribution of fold mountains across the globe, the areas impacted by tropical cyclones across the globe, the formation of jet streams across the globe. So here, the atlas needs to be studied not only from the perspective of current affairs, as was the case in the prelims, current affairs, which is very, very important, but also the aspect of pattern of geographical phenomena or geographical aspects across the globe. Okay? The portion of current affairs, when you find it mentioned in the newspaper, be it about resource distribution, be it about industrial migration and industry is moving from one region to another, all those portions here can be addressed. So the portions of human and economic geography here needs to be stressed upon in greater proportion as compared to the prelims, because human and economic geography, be it the factors of population, settlement, industries, agriculture, as well as transportation, you will always find to be asked in greater frequency in the mains examination. So this is a portion that you really have to focus and always confirm it when you take a look at the atlas as well. So here again, atlas will play a very important role. Now, the additional reading in this case will be slightly greater as compared to the prelims portion. Here, other than the newspaper, any of the newspaper that you prefer, be it the Hindu or the Indian Express, do regularly follow that newspaper. Other than that, try to keep up with certain basic magazines. Magazines such as Down to Earth, which helps you gain a perspective regarding changes which are happening in agriculture, climate change, soil pattern, deforestation, rainfall distribution, all those will be gained. The perspective will be gained by the magazine of Down to Earth. But also, because the questions asked in the mains examination are problem based, where a problem will be given to you, such as water scarcity in India, or water management in India, or deforestation in India, or the aspect of soil erosion, etc. So there, one is also expected to reproduce in the answer paper the portions of the government schemes. And various different government schemes and their role, they are dealt in greater detail in the portion of Yojana as well as Kurukshetra. So the magazines of Yojana and Kurukshetra, they need to be dealt with. Now these need to be dealt with. Why? Because this helps you understand the issues of India and probable solutions. Now, if you are well versed with these magazines, you will have enough content material to produce a good essay as well. So that is why I would always advise you to go for these basic magazines and their coverage in a slightly greater in depth, so that you have a kind of a broader answer that you are writing along with the example. So these magazines will also give you the examples which are required to make your answer very, very authentic overall. And this needs to be done on a monthly basis. The newspapers need to be covered on a daily basis. The magazines need to be covered on a monthly basis. And this you have to incorporate in your answer writing. Okay? The answer writing aspect of it becomes necessarily very important. Now let us take a look at few of the types of questions which appear. And let us try to understand what is the pattern of the questions. For example, the Himalayas are highly prone to landslides. Discuss the causes and suggest suitable measures of mitigation. Now look at the type of question. The question is a problem. Problem which requires the candidate to understand the physiographical detail as well as the geomorphological realities of the Himalayas. We do know that Himalayas, they are very young fold mountains, they are unstable, and also because of the steep slope, you have significant amount of materials which are pulled by the gravitational force of attraction. So naturally, the larger rock pieces, they tend to fall down, they are unstable. You have seismic activities or earthquakes which happen in greater frequency. You have cloudburst events. So various different events, various different realities and processes that needs to be married together and then funneled into a beautiful answer. Again, diagram is important, but look at it. The question does not only ask you about what landslides are or where do they happen. They do require you to understand the measures to prevent these landslides, such as slope stabilization, such as vulnerability mapping. All these aspects need to be suggested. So the way forward also becomes particularly important. Then, for example, explain the formation of thousands of islands in Indonesian and Philippines archipelagos. Now, this is a direct question from geomorphology. Ideally, this question is all about the candidate explaining the process of continental or rather oceanic convergence. When you have two oceanic plates, when they start converging, that is what is required to be reproduced in this answer, that how these islands get created. But then here the question has been framed from the example of world aspect. Such example shall be picked up. That why is it that in the region of Hawaiian Islands you have a chain of islands which get created. So there you are expected to write about the volcanic hotspots, for example. In this case, you have to write about what happens when oceanic plate converges with another oceanic plate. So such kinds of basics, they need to be targeted. So that is the type of question where diagram needs to be drawn and an explanation needs to be provided. For example, again, take a look of why I am saying that the global aspect needs to be analyzed. So, what are the world's fold mountain, or rather, why are the world's fold mountain systems located along the margins of the continents? Again, the aspect of continental or continental oceanic convergence, Rockies, Andes, Atlas, and so on. Bring out the association between the global distribution of fold mountains and the earthquakes and volcanoes. Where is it that these fold mountains are present, but there is no volcanic eruption? For example, Himalayas, Alps, there you don't have so many volcanic eruptions happening. But Rockies, Andes, you do have volcanic eruptions happening. So again, that needs to be represented on the world map. So here again, your diagram drawing ability and your ability to weave your answer in the form of a flowchart, that will help you score very good marks. Then, the recent cyclone on the east coast of India was called Phelan. This is a question which is slightly older in the terms of 2013 and 14. How are the tropical cyclones named across the world? Again, if you study the tropical cyclones with the W3H aspect of it. So why is it that the cyclones occur? How is it that the naming is done? Which is that naming list? That is required. Then bring out the causes for the formation of heat islands in the urban habitat of the world. Why is it that the urban areas experience a higher amount of temperature? So there you have to talk about the portion of albedo. There you have to talk about the proportion of population density in a particular urban area and how heat is not dissipated from those areas. So multitude of various different concepts, they need to be brought together. And when you have the ability to do that, how is it that you will gain the ability to do that? Only if you have enough confidence to create around 200 to 50 words around each of these phenomena. And that will happen if you have prepared beautiful notes, or rather your notes in your own words. If you have managed to do that topic wise, not only will revision be a very important and easy process, but at the same time, the answer writing come the time of the mains examination will not bother you at all. So that is what is required for the mains examination for geography. Just keep in mind one thing. This is one of those papers in your general studies portions which gives you the ability to score at least 70% of those 100 to 105 marks. And that ability comes if you are well versed in the portion of current affairs and the problems surrounding you. Because many of the questions, they are asked from the portion directly of Indian geography. So observe the surroundings and the happenings around you. If there is a large scale urban to rural migration or rural to urban migration, why is it happening? If there are certain problems with urban settlement leading to urban floods, what can be the solution? What are the causes? For all that, you don't necessarily require a book. Just the information with newspapers oftentimes is more than enriching enough to produce the answers. So here the preparation needs to be slightly more dynamic. The preparation that you would have done for your prelims, only that needs to be reproduced on the paper in the form of the notes and always enriched in the form of current affairs. And that shall be more than sufficient to bring out beautiful answers which will fetch you very good marks and increase your probability to succeed in this examination. So that is all that is required for this subject, and do follow these basics and you will find proficiency and efficiency is gained by you as a candidate. Thank you.